Welcome to Show and Tell Minisode.
This is Jesse Hughes and Daniel Gilmore.
No, hey guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Welcome to a quick episode of Show and Tell, a little mini-sode, I guess, as it were.
This is our 10th episode, first episode in 2016. So as such, we are going to do our top 10 of 2015. Last episode, I said we were going to each do our top 5, but we're actually going to do a top 10 double feature because I had at least 10 movies I really loved this year. So I'm going to do my top 10. Dan's going to do his. We're going to go one by one. Do you want to start it off?
Yeah, mine aren't in any particular order. But,
okay. Mine are.
Yeah, I know. I find it hard to judge movies.
It is hard. I mean, my list could change orders by the end of next year, but yeah.
Exactly, especially if it's only a movie I've seen once and really enjoyed or something like that.
Let me go ahead and start off and do this, and I think you have the same kind of list. I'm going to list all the movies I did not see this year that I think could end up on this list. So this list could be completely different by the end of this year.
And that was my other issue there too, is why I didn't really give it any sort of ranking order.
Yeah.
And same thing, I just know off the top of my head, like Dope was on there. I know I listed a couple other ones where I go, yeah, I didn't get to see that.
Movies you didn't see this year?
Yeah.
Dope, I didn't even know about. So here's my list. It's a long one. The Revenant. This is, again, this is a list of movies I have not yet seen this year that I have potential, basically, from what I know about them, to be on my top 10. The Revenant, Sicario, The Big Short, Anomalisa, Spotlight, The Walk, The Peanuts Movie, Carol, Creed, The Danish Girl, Brooklyn, The Good Dinosaur, a little Pixar goodness there, Room, Black Mass, Bone Tomahawk, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, Trumbo, Mr. Holmes, The Stanford Prison Experiment, Time Out of Mind, What We Do in the Shadows, which I know you've seen, Concussion, and Digging for Fire. Those are all movies that, based on what I know about them, I think are something that I'm going to enjoy, but we are working men. We work in retail, so we're busy dudes, so we don't have time to watch all the movies we want to watch, but those are movies that I will hopefully have seen by the end of this year.
Yeah, my list pretty similar. Sans, like, I don't think Creed is going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a couple other ones, but like I said, I don't even worry about listing them.
Okay, cool.
So,
all right, so those are the movies I wish had a place on my list if it's not in the top 10, but alas, we have not had time to see them yet. Okay, so go ahead with your number 10.
Spring.
Spring I have not seen or heard of.
Yeah, it's I guess it's foreign horror. The main character is supposed to be American.
One more disclaimer. This will be, unlike all of our other episodes, this will be a spoiler-free episode. We're just going to do snippets. So go ahead, Spring. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's like a foreign horror. It's this guy. Something happens to him, so he goes to it's like Rome or something like that, and meets a girl, and then it's kind of the whole like kind of love horror story thing. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
Sounds cool.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right, I'll watch it. My number 10 is, I know you haven't seen it. You want to? It's Ex Machina.
Yep.
A great sci-fi movie. Love sci-fi, as I state in like every other episode. It's a pretty straightforward story, a small cast. Oscar Isaac is in it, which I didn't even realize until we saw Star Wars recently, and I was perusing like his information, all the movies that he's done, his filmography, and I was like, man, this guy is such a versatile actor. But he's in this movie. It's there's some romance to it, some intrigue, some drama. It's about a guy who goes and wins this contest and meets up with this really intelligent inventor who is supposedly developing the first true artificial intelligence. So great flick, recommended. Ex Machina is my number 10.
Yep, that's on my list of things to see. So 9, I have it in What We Do in the Shadows.
Good stuff. Is it funny? Is it poignant? All the above?
Yeah, it's I thought it was really funny. It's definitely you have to be into that sort of humor, as you know, because it's Jermaine Clements and like Reese Darby's in it and stuff too.
Does
and other people you like? So.
Brett McKenzie have anything to do with it, or
not that I was aware of?
No, he's too busy on the Muppets.
Probably.
Yeah. My number 9 is Mad Max. This movie was just explosive. I'm sure this is on your list. What surprised me about it is I was expecting like all out action, but it really does have a story to it. It's a pretty simple story, but it's engaging nonetheless. And more than anything, George Miller is just really dedicated to this world. It's a movie that really exists inside this really unique wasteland. and this movie holds true to that. I've only seen the first one, so I haven't seen the other Mad Max movies, but this movie I thought was pretty great.
Yeah, I think 2 is arguably like the most famous. Everybody likes Thunderdome. It's the worst in the series, though.
This was my first Mad Max movie, and then we went back and watched the first one, which hasn't aged well, but I've heard good things about the other movies.
And at 8, I have It Follows.
Yeah, that's one of my honorable mentions. I guess I'm ruining part of my top 10, but yeah, loved that movie.
It was good.
Great horror flick. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't scary. It was creepy. But yeah, I really, it was one of the horror. That was one of the few movies we actually watched together this year.
Yeah.
My number 8 is Cop Car. Did you see that?
No, it's on my list of stuff too. I like Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon and a couple of kids. It's a really low-key movie. What I love about it is all of the reactions, the way that people behave based on the scenarios throughout the movie are really realistic, with a small exception towards the end. But fantastic movie. Really surprised me.
7, Crimson Peak. Which you refuse to watch.
One of those movies I refuse to watch. I don't know if I'll ever watch it, but I guess I will now, that knowing that you like it, and it's good enough to be in your top 10.
Yeah, it's just super well done. Like, I think Del Toro, like, his real home is in horror. If you've seen like Pan's Labyrinth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I haven't. I've only seen I've seen Pacific Rim, and I feel like I've seen something else. Pacific Rim was
I know a lot of people like Pacific Rim. I hated it.
Yeah, not a good movie in any respect to me anyway. To us. My number 7 is The Martian, second sci-fi movie on my list. It has a really great sense of place, which is really remarkable considering we've never been to Mars. So it really feels like you're existing on this planet that is completely foreign. You're taking this journey with a man who is the first person to walk on Mars. It's also really surprisingly funny. I didn't really know much about the novel. I started reading the book after we watched the movie, another movie that you and I saw together this year, and I got a couple chapters in and I went, this is just like the movie. I just watched this. So I had to put the book down. I might come back to it in a couple years, but it seems like it's a film that really was faithful to its source material.
Yeah, I heard they changed very little.
Yeah.
So.
I wished and it's a mark of a good film. It's a pretty long movie. It was like 2.5 hours. And I wished it was longer. I thought the ending could have been drawn out a little bit more to show a little bit more of the turmoil that he was going through towards the end.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. It was good. At 6, probably a weird choice. Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good flick. It was better. Watching trailers, I thought it was going to be excellent. I love Guy Ritchie. But once the review started coming out, I avoided it in theaters. But then we watched it together. I did enjoy it. It was good. Anything else? I feel like I'm talking on your...
No. I mean, I don't really have too much to say. I didn't, really prepare anything. I was just like, those are the movies I like.
These are the ones I dig.
Check them out if you haven't already. I think most of these are pretty popular. So.
My number 6, I'd imagine this is on your list, Ant-Man. This movie was a lot of fun. It had a troubled past. There was a lot of issues with the writing, and Edgar Wright was involved, and then he wasn't involved, and that's a bad sign,
I almost didn't watch it because of that.
Right, I was much less excited about it because of that. But it feels like it's written as an Edgar Wright movie. It's not directed like an Edgar Wright movie, but you can tell that he had his hand in it, and it is one of my favorite Marvel movies, probably my top 3.
Well, it's that and Guardians for me. Everything else, like
Winter Soldier, dude.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Okay, cool.
Slow West.
Slow West was great. That was another one
5.
vying for my top 10. Slow West, fantastic movie. I love westerns, and I love the resurgence that we've had of westerns. My number 5, Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. I'm a huge... I like action movies. I love the Mission Impossible series. To me, they're 5 for 5. The last one, Ghost Protocol, was a little disappointing for me. I was expecting, a blazing glory because it was Brad Bird, but it was a little disappointing. It was my least favorite, but this one is one of my favorites, right under the third one. Really love the way they did this. What really stood out to me was the brilliant chemistry between Tom Cruise and the leading lady in the movie. It wasn't necessarily a love story, but there was like this this tension between them, and it was kind of this wordless, like they really didn't say much to each other. But I thought it was really well developed, and it also had a great villain, which was one of the problems of the previous film. So I'm glad that was a return to form for Mission Impossible.
Saw that together too. I enjoyed that movie thoroughly.
I was glad.
And again, in no particular order, my number 4 is Straight Outta Compton. Or Out Of.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that.
You didn't because you're a fool.
Good stuff.
It was great. I watched that twice.
It's based on
NWA,
which I know nothing about.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of hip hop, as it were.
Do you think it would be intriguing though to someone who isn't as?
Yeah, I mean, it's anything if you're interested in just people's lives and stuff, as far as like biographies.
Right.
I've seen like Prefontaine, and I'm not interested in The Runner, or
Right.
and it's still like a good
Yeah.
movie.
Amy really digs documentaries, so we'll probably watch it and get something out of it.
Yeah, like all the guys like super well acted, directed very well. All the guys look like them, their counterparts.
That's hard to do.
Yeah,
And they
the guy
and they act well.
yeah, the guy that had play Eazy-E, I was like, it was bugging me out. I was like, he looks so much like him. He's not related at all.
Yeah.
And then the guy that plays Ice Cube, it's his son. And I was watching it, and I was like, this guy just looks so much like him. But I didn't know it was his son. At the
Oh,
time.
it's his son. Oh, that's
But then I was like, oh wait, that's his son.
my number 4 is The Hateful Eight. It's the most recent movie that we saw. Surprise, surprise, Tarantino made another great film. This is a movie that would be in my top half of Tarantino movies, although all of his movies are just pretty fantastic. It's interesting that it's his second Western. He had previously said he would never repeat a genre, but he's doing it, and he must have had a reason. But it's remarkable that it really feels like a completely different movie than Django Unchained. It's hard to say whether I like this one or Django more, but this was really great movie, fantastic dialogue, of course, great performances. I had a pretty, this kind of stage play air about it. Like you could see this being performed on stage. Before we went to see the movie, I was looking up showtimes. This movie is 3 hours and 7 minutes long. It might be the longest movie I've seen in theaters. Was the third Lord of the Rings longer than that?
I've never seen that one.
That movie felt long, but this movie didn't feel long. There was never a moment where I was like, I need to get up and go to the bathroom or stretch or whatever. It was just really well paced from start to finish, which of course is a Tarantino staple, but for a 3 hour movie, not to feel like a 3 hour movie is
yeah, we were talking about it the next day at work, and a customer was asking Sterling and I about it, and he was like, I don't know if I want to see it, it's so long, and we were like, no, it didn't feel that long.
Not at all.
And he's like, okay, I'll go watch it then.
It's
so like, we sold one person at least.
100% engaging.
Yeah, Hateful Eight's actually my number 3
Sweet.
on that list. So,
Awesome.
Like I said, great movie. Definitely in my top. I liked it a lot more than Django, which is arguably my least favorite movie he's done.
I still love you.
I know.
All right, so we're up to number 3. The order of these movies was really tough for me. My number 3 is Inside Out. Pixar's return to form for me. It kind of seemed that they were kind of losing their way. They had Brave, and then they had Cars 2, which is why did that come out? And then Inside Out came out, and of course we wanted to see it. We love Pixar. We kind of try to see everything. The voice casting is absolutely perfect. Amy Poehler, Lewis Black, Phyllis Smith, especially as Sadness, was fantastic. And this is one Pixar movie that, unlike everything else since Toy Story, really since The Incredibles, really warrants sequels to me. I could see them making sequels to this, and it actually warrants it more so than Cars, especially. But I want my Incredibles sequel first. But I could see this being their next Toy Story. There could be more to this story, and I think it's pretty brilliant where they took kind of this idea of feelings.
This was almost on my list.
Almost.
But just like you were saying, if they were sequels, it's such an easy thing to work with because you can do it throughout different periods of her life.
Right.
Or even just other people.
Yeah.
And then I was joking with you the day after I saw it, or when I was watching it with my friend Alex. We were just like, this is a whole new genre. Just remake movies inside of people's heads now.
I would be totally down for that. Even if Pixar was in charge, that would be wildly entertaining. I had tears in my eyes pretty much throughout this entire movie. And my wife, Amy, even commented on it when we got out. She was like, that movie really affected you, didn't it? And it really did for me. It just hit all these emotional notes of nostalgia and what it felt like to grow up and the different kind of emotions you go through. And they kind of characterized that in such a way that made it really relatable for me. So that's why it's my number 3, Inside Out.
And then Ant-Man's in on mine as well.
Number 2?
Number 2.
Number 2. I know you loved it.
Loved that movie.
That was a great flick.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah.
And Paul Rudd.
I know exactly. When they announced him, I was like, yes! Well, I wouldn't even think about that, but it was perfect. So my number 2, Steve Jobs. This movie was fantastic. Horrible in the box office. We saw it just kind of on a whim. We went to go see it, and it was in theaters in our area for a week. And then it was out. I would have gone to see it again because I was telling all you guys about it. Like, hey, you guys need to see this movie. Yeah. It's a deliriously energetic movie, and it has no right to be for what it's about. It's just kind of this biopic on Steve Jobs. It takes place in these 3 different announcements that he was going through. Danny Boyle, of course, fantastic writer, fantastic director. He does a really good melding of fact and fiction in this movie. It's gotten a lot of guff for being, mostly
inaccurate.
Conjecture, yeah. I mean, yeah, not even conjecture, just completely inaccurate because these characters didn't exist in these moments of his life. But for the sake of storytelling, it's absolutely brilliant. And what it does that other Steve Jobs movies and biographies haven't done is allow us
Cast
to
a good
relate.
actor?
Well, yeah. Okay, two things. Michael Fassbender, fantastic. Kate Winslet, also really great. All the acting is fantastic, but those two roles especially. It took me a little while to realize who Kate Winslet was. I didn't even. I was
really?
like, man, who is this? She's so good. Oh, it's Kate. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, where was I?
Yes, I haven't seen that one either. You're just saying something they hadn't done yet.
Oh, is make Steve Jobs' eccentricities relatable. While he is, yes, he's still an asshole in this movie. It makes sense. You understand who he is. He is, he's brilliant in this film, and you understand what he went through to kind of get that way. It doesn't necessarily excuse the things he did, whether what's in the movie is fact or fiction. But it makes it relatable. It makes you understand basically who he is. And I haven't felt that way about any other Steve Jobs movie or biography that I've seen. Number 1. Mad Max. Oh, yeah, so I wasn't even paying attention to the fact that you hadn't mentioned it yet. I knew you loved that movie.
I did. It was super good.
You had mentioned it. When the trailers first came out, I was like blown away. I was like, we have to see this movie. Both me and Amy were like, yeah, this looks amazing. And we knew nothing about the universe. And then you saw it when it came out, like the day it came out, right?
No, we all watched it together, didn't we?
No, I saw it with Amy and her mom.
Who did I watch that with?
Amy's mom was a little weirded out at first, but I think she enjoyed it by the end of it. It was cray-cray. All right, so my number 1, I know you weren't a fan, but my number 1 is Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I liked it.
I know, but it's not in your top 10.
Say that I'm not a fan. No. I enjoyed the movie. I watched it twice. Like...
You did see it twice?
Yeah.
I didn't realize you saw it again. Yeah. Okay. So for me, coming out of it the first time, I know you and I were talking a lot about our criticisms of the movie. We were talking about everything that it didn't do, and there's still things that it didn't do. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There are some arbitrary plot holes that don't make sense, especially for a J.J. Abrams movie, because he's usually really good at pacing and making everything make sense. And there's some stuff in this movie that
they're making 5 more of them.
Exactly.
They got 5 more directors lined up.
Exactly. So for me, walking out of it was probably like 4 or 5 of the year for me. But watching it the second time made me realize what they did do right, and the attention to detail that he did pay to the franchise as a whole and to this new film. It occupies this really unique middle ground between a reboot and a sequel, and a lot of people have criticized it for that, but I think it's brilliant. It has a lot of the same story beats as the original Star Wars, but it kind of shows you that you can tell that kind of story in a completely different way and have it be compelling with this mix of these new and these old characters. And another really great thing about it is that while the old characters are, it's great to see them again, the new characters are just as compelling, which is a huge challenge, especially when you're talking about Star Wars. And I think he pulled it off with aplomb. While it's not a perfect movie, it's the movie that I think, looking back on several years from now, it'll probably be the movie I will have seen the most out of all the movies that came out this year. I already as soon as I stepped out of the theater the first time and the second time, I want to see it again. So Star Wars: The Force Awakens is my number 1 movie this year. And that's it. That's our top 10.
Yeah.
Oh, so I wanted to do my...
Well, your bottom, you said, right?
Well, what was the worst movie you saw this year? Well, no, it would make more sense to do this. This is my honorable mentions. So these were all the movies that would be vying for my 10 spot. It was really tough to pick a number 10. Bridge of Spies was great. Tom Hanks. Slow West, which was on your list. The Visit probably wouldn't have been my number 10, but it was better than I expected. A return to form for Shyamalan, sort of. Cinderella, which it sounds surprising, but that was a really fantastic, probably my favorite telling of the Cinderella story.
The movie looked good.
Yeah. The new Hunger Games Mockingjay was really verbatim to the book, more so than any of the other movies have been, but they boiled it down as concisely as they needed to and wrapped up the story in a great way. And that series was pretty consistent, so that was a good watch. Z for Zachariah, a good indie flick. The Gift was probably the closest to being my number 10 over Ex Machina. Fantastic thriller, you should watch it. 71 was great, and then It Follows was also on my list of honorable mentions. Okay, so what's the worst movie you saw this year?
What did I... Because I said it was between Jurassic Park and Ultron, I guess.
Oh, yeah, Jurassic World.
Those are my 2 least favorite movies.
Yeah.
As far as, big blockbusters
right, yeah,
that I've seen.
The emphasis on how much money they made and how good they were supposed to be, should have been.
Because there's other movies that came out that I didn't see that were probably worse, like Genesis for the Terminator.
Yeah.
Or having made like Ridiculous 6 and not or Sharknado, whatever the number they're on.
Those shouldn't count. They're meant to be bad.
Yeah.
They're meant to be so bad they're good, but I don't think they're good. Jurassic World is a contender for me. Ultron was... I expected it to at least be better than the first one, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but it wasn't. But for me, we were talking about it. Oh, Fantastic Four. I know you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it. Same thing. I haven't seen it. So.
Yeah, thankfully I did not see it in theaters. Saw it recently, but it is as bad as they say it is. I mean, it's not even that it's bad. There's nothing to it. It's complete. It's a completely emotionless movie. It's a wonder that the studio didn't just say no, don't put this out. It's such a it taints Fox's image basically.
Well, supposedly they're just trying to get rid of stuff so Marvel will buy it back.
Yeah, that is the way to do it.
My whole thing is like when the director says that's not his movie.
Oh yeah, well see the thing is he went to Twitter and he said, I had a great version of this film. It's too bad you're not seeing it. If that's true, then none of the footage that we saw in the movie could have been in that original film. From the very beginning of Fantastic Four, it's going to be just a passionless movie. There's never a point where you go, oh, okay, I see where this idea was something that would make sense as a film that people would want to watch. It's completely joyless. It's a shame. I was excited about it, but
I like Trask too. So
yeah, I love Trask. Chronicle was fantastic. I don't know, has he done anything else?
I think that was literally his only thing.
Yeah, but it was so good that you expected more. Yeah,
the movie was fantastic.
Yeah, great flick. All right, guys, thank you for listening, and again, Happy New Year. Tune in. For our next episode is going to be on Pirate Radio, episode 11.
Pirate Radio.
And we thank you guys for listening so far. We're excited to be beyond episode 10. I probably get 1 or 2 comments from people per episode, and that's really all I need. But please tell other people about Show and Tell. We love doing this. We just do it because we love movies, and we hope you're
talking about them.
Yeah,
and maybe other people would like to hear that.
Yeah, so.
Or talking to us. Message us.
Yeah, shoot us a message. We're on YouTube. We're on iTunes. Write us a review if you can. Google and SoundCloud. So shoot us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. If you have any ideas for us to spice things up, let us know. And thank you once again. And I hope you have a great 2016. My name is Jesse Hughes.
And I've been Daniel A. Gilmore.
This is Show and Tell.